Okay, Shalom. First and foremost, want to say, Call Halal, Yahweh Bahashim, Yahweh Shai. That's all praises unto the Most High God in the name of His only begotten Son. All right, so Brother Alazar Ben Loya. Today, I want to go into an etymology lesson on the word Creole. Okay, many times have we heard our people make statements like, I'm not black, I'm Creole, as if Creole is better than black, as if Creole is different than black. And oftentimes our people have this false ideology that them being Creole means that they are a mixture between African slave, French slave master, and Native American Indian. Erroneously, they have this belief. Some people who claim to be Creole are light-skinned and clearly have mixing within their lineage. Some people who are Creole are dark-skinned and don't have any evidence of any intermingling within, visibly seen within their lineage. So that whole ideology in and of itself is totally wrong. We have a common misconception of what Creole in fact is. So I want to go into the definition of Creole and what it means and what you say, what you are actually calling yourself when you are trying to take this label known as Creole and say it, apply it to yourself as if it means you're better than your brethren that look exactly like you that are black. You're black, so-called black. Okay, you're really an Israelite. Okay, as long as you patrilineally go back to a black man. But our people take on this oppressive nature that they get, that was basically ingrained into our heads through the system of the oppressive white supremacy. Because white supremacy tells you the more you look like Master, or the more Master's blood you have in you, the better you are. So our people often will be lighter skinned and say that they're Creole, even if they're not, even if they're, because the term, the usage of it is typically applied to the area around Louisiana. But those people in Haiti are Creole, because the people in Haiti and Louisiana are the same people. It's the same crops of slaves. Um, and typically Haitians are not light skinned. So why is it that you're Creole because you're light skinned? That's not why you're Creole. Okay. We're going to talk about what this word Creole means and why we were called that. And again, what you are saying about yourself when you call yourself that. All right. Number one, Creole, a black. Wait a minute. When you say you're Creole, usually oftentimes people will say they're Creole to try to say they're not black. But in the definition of Creole is a black slave born in the Americas as opposed to one brought from Africa. So initially, the term Creole was existed to label slaves that were born into slavery, not ones that were captured and brought into slavery, but were born into slavery. So maybe your parents or your grandparents were captured from the shores of West Africa and brought to the Americas into slavery, but you were born into it, so you would be labeled a Creole. So what you are saying when you say you're a Creole is that you're a slave. That's all you're saying. You're not saying you're better than anybody. You're not saying you're not black. You are saying that you are a slave. That's all you're saying. This whole ideology that Creole means you're black, French, and Indian is a lie. Okay? Are some people who call themselves Creole, do they have blacks, whites, and Indians within their, genealogy? That's true. Some do. But in general, that's not necessarily true. And what Creole means is that you're a slave that was born in the Americas. You were born into slavery. You are not a captive. You're a homeborn slave. Okay? A creolized language, or Haitian Creole. Now we have to understand why this term began to be applied. For example, Haitian Creole, right? My family came from Haiti to Louisiana, all right, in the early 1900s, from Haiti to Louisiana. So during that time period, they were speaking the language known as Creole. Okay, you have Louisiana Creole and Haitian Creole, both very similar. But the reason why it was called Creole is because the slaves or the black people that spoke it were born into slavery in over here in the Americas. So instead of speaking an indigenous West African tongue that we were speaking, that those of us that were captured were speaking, we were speaking a bastardized form of the language of the slave master. It had its own slang to it that we would use because, of course, we weren't formally educated in the language, and also it had elements of the West African languages we were speaking prior to being taken into slavery. So it was known as a Creole. It was like our own version of master's language, the slave version of master's language. So basically, it's a slave language. You understand what I'm saying? That's what the term Haitian Creole comes from, or Creole language. Patois, which the West Indians, the tribe of Benjamin, speak. That's also considered a Creole, um, because it is English. You know, when they speak Wagwan, Mayud, all that, that's English, but it's their own version of English. You see what I'm saying? It's not a formally educated English. It is a slave version of English. It's like Ebonics, okay? Same thing with Haitian Creole. The difference between Haitian Creole is, even though it's considered Francophone, it is so unique that it's considered its own language. It's French in its core, but it's unique from French, so it's considered its own language as opposed to just a dialect as Patois or Ebonics would be. All right, but either way, it's just a language that slaves developed from elements of the language they spoke prior to going into slavery, elements of what the slave master was teaching them, of their European language, and things that develop over the course of time, like slang and things of that nature. That's what a Creole is. So basically, that's all it is. It has to do with slavery. Things that were developed, or proverbs and bywords that were put upon slaves, and things that were developed by slaves. That's all it is. We look up the etymology, you know, the French and the Spanish. Person native to a locality. Person raised in a house, especially a servant, right? In the Portuguese. Now, does that mean that it was a house slave that was Creole? No. That is also an erroneous belief. It is not just a house slave that was a Creole. When it says person raised in a house, it's the house of bondage. You were raised in a house of bondage. You were raised up into slavery. Okay? Like this. We go here to Exodus 20 and 2. I am the Lord thy God, which have brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. So when we're brought into slavery on ships, as it tells us in Deuteronomy 28 and 68, into this new Egypt, this new house of bondage, we became Creole because we were slaves in the house of bondage. We were raised in the house of bondage, again, as opposed to being captured and brought into the house of bondage. We were raised and born into the house of bondage. But, you know, a lot of our people take pride in this, calling themselves this, and it's retarded, okay? It's another proverb and a byword that was put upon us. We're really the Hebrew Israelites of the miscellaneous 12 tribes, all right? Especially a lot of people who consider themselves Creole from the Louisiana area, from the Haitian area, or Haiti and things like that, are of the tribe of Levi, okay? This is Deuteronomy 28 and 37. And thou shalt become an astonishment, a proverb, and a byword. This is what would happen to us if we rejected the laws of the Most High. So this is what we've become: an astonishment, a proverb, and a byword. Black, Negro, African American, Jamaican, Puerto Rican, Creole. These are all proverbs and bywords that were put upon us. This is not who we are. We are Hebrew Israelites, okay, as blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians. So I'm going to start back again from the top of Deuteronomy 28 and 37. And thou shalt become an astonishment, a proverb, and a byword among all nations whither the Lord shall lead thee. So we were led over here into this new Egypt, this new house of bondage, on cargo slave ships, as was prophesied in Deuteronomy 28 and 68 as a punishment from the Most High God. So we was given proverbs and bywords here, and Creole was one of them. Creole meant you were born into slavery as opposed to being captured and brought into slavery. Okay, that's all it means. So next time you call yourself Creole, or next time you hear somebody call themselves Creole, educate them on what it means. It means they're a slave. That's all it means. This is 1 Kings 9 and 7. Then I will cut off Israel out of the land. That's what happened. We were cut off out of our land in ancient Israel, right? Which I have given them. And this house, which I have hallowed for my name, we was alienated from the temple of the Most High, will I cast out of my sight. And Israel shall be a proverb and a byword among all people. And we are. And that's why we're called Creoles again, and blacks and Latinos, Hispanics, and things like that. Because we have been cursed for breaking the laws of God, for violating the contract and an agreement that we made with the Most High as his people. Okay, this is Jeremiah 2 and 14. Is Israel a servant? Is he a homeborn slave? Why is he spoiled? Now, when you call yourself a Creole, or that term Creole being applied to us, means literally what? A homeborn slave. So the rhetorical question is asking, is Israel a servant? Is he a homeborn slave? We're not supposed to be. We're supposed to be the rulers of this earth. This earth was created for our sake. But what are we now? Servants and homeborn slaves. And our people ignorantly take pride in a term that literally means homeborn slave. Ain't that something? But I just want to do that quick lesson on the origins of the term Creole. So again, if you call yourself that, now you know what that means. And next time you hear somebody refer to themselves as that, educate them. Okay, again, all praises to Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai, and Shalom.